Hello, this week the presentation is going to be on 3 corporate codes of conduct, which is for Dell, Coca-Cola, and Goodwill, and I'm going to be evaluating through a biblical lens. So first, this is my main argument and kind of my evaluation criteria. First, I wanted to compare the 3 codes fairly, and I used 4 questions, which is it clear about what is right or wrong? Second, does it really protect the people who speak up? Third, does it require leaders or to model integrity? And the last question is, does it reflect biblical principles of justice, mercy, and humility? The fourth question kind of comes from Micah 6:8, which says, "Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with God." And I'm using the verse to help guide my evaluation. So first is Dell. Dell's code is the strongest overall, I think, because it kind of goes beyond just complying with what the law says. Dell kind of explicitly says ethical behavior must go beyond legal bare minimums, and then they kind of give their employees practical decision filters, like is it legal, does it match the company's values, does it respect the people. Dell makes reporting central, and they have clear anti-retaliation rules and also language as well. But what really stands out the most from Zell is that Zell puts extra responsibility on the leaders, and they kind of tell them they have to model and reward ethical behavior and respond to it quick and respond to bad behavior and misconduct really quickly. Biblically, I think that aligns with without 3 parts that were in Micah 6:8. Justice they showed through the honesty, mercy through respecting people and treating other people fairly, and humility through having accountability and holding each other responsible to do the right thing. This is why I kind of see Zell's as the most effective and the strongest overall. Next is Coca-Cola. I think Coca-Cola's strength was really in their clarity. It kind of tells the employees exactly what to do, which is to follow the law, avoid conflicts of interest, and keep accurate records and report violations. I think this one had a good feature. It uses real dilemmas and real examples to explain everything that's going on to its employees. Sorry, it also calls out common stuff that people used to rationalize, like everybody just does it, so we can do it too, or it's okay just this once, which is a really realistic part of their code. um it kind of shows exactly how people talk themselves into doing bad things. I think where Coca-Cola is a little weaker than Dell is that it's more focused on compliance to the law than formation centered, if that makes sense. It's highly effective with its rule clarity, but it's really not as what's the word well rounded, robust at shaping the moral culture from the inside out. Okay, last one is Goodwill. I think this one it kind of stands out because it starts with its mission and dignity. It emphasizes empowerment, dignity, accessibility, and respect for diversity, and also lifelong learning. That kind of makes their code a little more human, and also really fits in with Goodwill since it's a nonprofit organization. Goodwill also has strong reporting protections and promises that reports will be investigated promptly, and there won't be retaliation against people who report it. Um, I think Goodwill is kind of effective in the way it focuses on how ethical conduct affects vulnerable people in the community and not just the organization, like how it affects the organization alone. Kind of compared to Dell, it's a little less polished and has a as in its decision making framework. It kind of not leads, it kind of seems more like a broad policy guide instead of a step-by-step moral guide or filter. But it's the code I kind of connected with the most because it was really a lot about service. First off, I kind of connected with Dell and Goodwill more than Coca-Cola. I like Dell because it treats integrity as something that has to be done, as something that actively has to be a choice that we made. And speaking up and thinking carefully and leading well, which is kind of like the Air Force core value of integrity first. And it also matches how I think leadership should work. And the Goodwill, I like that code because it was rooted in service and dignity, and also responsibility to the people who are kind of affected by the work. I think Coca-Cola's code is good too, but it's felt more like a bunch of rules than really anything else. So this is kind of why I think code violation still happens, even though many companies have codes. Violation still happens because the code isn't enough to change the heart of an organization or the heart of a person. I think people will rationalize whatever they think they need to rationalize to get what they want, and they'll stay silent out of fear, or follow leaders whose behaviors aren't that good because they're scared. Uh, I think the reading kind of showed this as well. Coca-Cola warns against excuses of everybody does it and it's okay the first time. And also Dell says legality is only the minimum. And also Goodwill in their code, they say that reporting must be protected and encouraged. And all 3 codes kind of point at the same thing. Misconduct usually grows in the gap between what an organization writes and what it's actually rewarding. You can write that you don't you want people to speak up, but then you can always reward those that never speak up. So a code can name the standard, but it's the culture within the company that really shows if it's working or not. So this is the research I did this week. The first one is from Barbie Davison and Helen from 2021. Uh, I think for this one, they reviewed 100 empirical studies on corporate codes of ethics, and they found top-down control style codes tend to be the weakest, while effective codes are integrated into the culture of the company and supported by communication. this kind of like forced me to think and like about like how having a code is like not enough to really change how people behave. Next is by Cabana and Capston from 2025. Their study found that ethics programs reduce misconduct only when they shape team like ethical culture, and a code mainly improved clarity, but reductions in ethical behavior only depended on like real factors like how congruent it was with the management and like the sanctionability, which is a really big word. Even a strong code can fail if the local team and culture is super unhealthy. And together, both of these studies kind of argue that ethics has to be practiced and reinforced, not just like written down on a random document. Next, the biblical connection, which goes back to Micah 6:8, which kind of gives a simple way to evaluate any code. Because justice asks whether it tells the truth and confronts like the things that are wrong. Mercy is kind of like, does it protect dignity and prevent human harm? Humility is like whether a leader and employees are teachable and ready to repent and like fix what's wrong and are accountable for the wrongdoings. And on a personal level, I kind of learned that ethics isn't usually tested in like things that happen in the movies, like what we typically see online. It's like it kind of shows more in normal, ordinary daily moments where it's easier to do something wrong than it is to do what's right. Just to conclude for this week, the three codes showed different approaches. To me, Dell was the strongest overall because it combined all the values of structure and leadership accountability. Coca-Cola was kind of more of a rule-based compliance guide, and Goodwill was really strong on the mission and dignity. And the biggest lesson from the codes and the research is the fact that documentation and writing stuff down for rules is just a starting point, and it doesn't really fix anything until the culture and the leadership changes. Thank you so much for listening. These are the references.